Thank you for your interest in the Cultural Heritage Initiatives program and for wanting to make a positive difference in the lives of Albertans. This presentation is an overview of the program. If you feel that it is a good fit for your organization, then you may want to watch our other video where I will discuss the details of eligible projects, the application form, the grant agreement, and the budget. I'd like to take a moment to recognize that this is the homeland of many diverse people in Alberta, including First Nations and Métis whose ancestors have walked this land since time immemorial. We are grateful to work, live, and learn on this traditional territory that includes Treaties 6, 7, and 8. So what is the Cultural Heritage Initiatives Program? We call it CHIP for short. Since its founding in 1905, Alberta has been home to diverse ethnicities, languages, and traditions. The Cultural Heritage Initiatives Program is meant to increase community and public access to this history by helping nonprofit organizations document and showcase Indigenous and ethnocultural communities' cultural heritage with an emphasis on historically underrepresented parts of Alberta's story. This grant program provides up to $25,000 to eligible organizations to enable the sharing of stories through the documentation, collection, or digitization of content. It will enable communities to showcase oral histories, traditions, and stories of significance. There are two program outcomes. The first one is to increase public access to diverse histories of Alberta-based communities, and the second is to document and preserve contributions of diverse Alberta-based communities. The CHIP program is intended to promote access and awareness of Alberta's history and the diverse populations that contribute to it. It is not intended to address systemic issues. However, it is hoped that through awareness comes understanding. There are three program objectives. The first is to preserve and highlight the cultural heritage of ethnocultural or Indigenous communities with an emphasis on lesser known or historically overlooked parts of Alberta's story. Second is to enable sharing, where appropriate, of stories of Alberta's ethnocultural or Indigenous communities through the documentation, collection, or digitization of content. And third is to increase access, as appropriate, to already preserved or documented stories and history. So who can apply? Organizations that are eligible to apply to CHIP must be registered and in good standing under one of the following acts. Under the provincial legislation, organizations can be registered under the Agricultural Societies Act, Part 21 of the Business Corporations Act, Companies Act, Part 9, Libraries Act, Schools Act, Societies Act of Alberta, or the Special Act of the Alberta Legislature. Under federal legislation, organizations can be registered under the Special Act of the Parliament of Canada, the Canada Not-for-Profit Corporations Act, and registered in Alberta under the Business Corporations Act, or the Income Tax Act of Canada and operating the province of Alberta as a charity. First Nation or Métis settlements in Alberta are also eligible to apply. Please note that the asterisked acts must have an Alberta-based address that must be regularly monitored by an active member of the organization. Projects that are most likely to receive funding include projects that are new initiatives outside of the organization's day-to-day operations, projects submitted by organizations with an annual operating budget of less than $250,000, projects that focus on lesser known or historically overlooked parts of Alberta's story, organizations that represent the communities or cultures that are to be documented, or projects that demonstrate community support. There are two types of eligible projects. The first one is to document and share stories, histories, and cultural practices of one or more Alberta-based ethnocultural or Indigenous communities captured through a wide variety of media. Examples of this may include audiovisual experiences, storytelling, transcriptions, video recordings, or new or existing web platforms. Please note that projects that fall under this category must include project costs for both documentation and sharing of the stories and histories. The second type of eligible project is to increase accessibility as appropriate to already developed, documented, or digitized historical or heritage projects of ethnocultural or Indigenous communities. Increasing accessibility can include an increase in the number of individuals that have access to the information, or an increase in the ways that this information can be accessed by individuals. Ineligible projects include projects that are currently underway, projects that are fully funded through other funding sources, projects that include government lobbying or political activism, projects in which the primary objective is to support a commercial or for-profit business, capital or facility upgrades, renovations, or construction, academic research, study, or report-centered projects, projects related to school curriculum, any project that is not deemed to meet the program outcomes, annual events, or events as a celebration. Eligible expenses include only costs associated directly with the delivery of an eligible project, only equipment costs associated directly with the delivery of an eligible project, honorariums for elders or knowledge keepers, and administrative costs up to 10% of project budget, directly related to an eligible project. Please note that administrative costs must be broken down and the description linked directly to the project. Applications will be assessed against the following specific criteria, and priority will be given to those projects that best meet the criteria. The criteria includes organization's capacity, project viability and financial feasibility, and project impacts and access. Section 4.2 of the guidelines details how to demonstrate the various criteria. For example, an organization's capacity can be demonstrated by providing background history or by demonstrating the organization's sustainability through financial stability and operational history, or by demonstrating the appropriate community partners, collaborators, and subject matter experts that will support the project. Applicants should include as much information as possible to address the criteria when completing their application. Please note, not all requests that meet the established criteria will be approved for funding. Applicants may receive full, reduced, or no funding for their projects. Application intake deadlines are September 15th and January 15th. Notification of decision will be provided through email approximately 6 months following the intake deadlines in March and July. All decisions on grant applications are final and no appeals will be considered. So here are some tips and thoughts. Please read the Cultural Heritage Initiatives Program guidelines carefully. Complete the application checklist, provide clear and concise answers to application questions, submit letters of support from project partners, and contact us if you have any questions. It is important that you read the program guidelines and focus on the criteria section so that you can relate your project to the criteria. If you are to receive funding from this grant, you will be required to submit a final report that will include your expenses and the impacts of your project. Remember to sign the grant agreement, completely fill out the application, attach your financial statements and bank statements, include donation letters if applicable, provide the application for electronic payments form, ensure that the organization's name is identical to the registered legal name of the organization, and provide a void check, ensuring the account number matches the application for electronic payments form. These are requested at the time of application to speed up the wait time for successful applicants to receive their funding. Please note, funding is not guaranteed. The next few slides will briefly cover another grant program from the Government of Alberta that may be of interest to your organization. From the Ministry of Arts, Culture and Status of Women, we have the Community Initiatives Program Project-Based Grant. The Community Initiatives Program, CIP, Project-Based Grant supports projects that enhance and enrich communities throughout Alberta by providing assistance to nonprofit organizations for community projects, new programs, one-time initiatives, program expansions, and community events. The maximum funding available is $75,000 of matching funds. The annual intake deadlines are January 15th, May 15th, and September 15th. Thank you for watching. For more information, please contact Community Grants.